don't need any of this. Turn these off. How about that? How about that? How's that work? Is it gonna work? Upcoming. Wow, this thing is just losing its mind. Let's try auto find. Is that gonna work, or am I gonna have 80 windows again? Okay, well that's posting this. You know, I'm not gonna worry about this. This constant fighting against this thing is just crazy. Okay, activate. Oh, I see what I did. Okay, that is my fault. Sorry. Hold on a second, everybody. Hold on. I realized what I just did. That is my fault. So I have to inactivate, and I have to hit this. And I have to wait for... Don't switch. Okay, so here we go. And we will say enter, and enter, and enter, and enter, and enter. Not that one, not that one. Enter. Yeah, that's what I thought. Enter, and enter, and enter, enter. And one more, enter. And I believe that's all I gotta do. Close Discord. Let me post here. Okay, hold on. Post, done. And we'll try this one more time. I don't see anything. Refresh? No? Turn it off, turn it on. There we go. Boy, that button just doesn't do anything now, does it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Well, that's good. It only sees one as active. That's a plus. Activate. There we are. Hit the button. Okay. I don't know where the box is. Wait. Why is that there? Okay. Wow. Well, you know what? I'm not going to spend time on this tonight. I'm just not. If this thing doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I'm sorry if you can't see the chat, everybody. I don't know. I don't know why this thing, you know, I am increasingly thinking it's not my fault. So I'm not going to worry about it. We're just going to get going here. And, I need to turn that off. You should see the reflector window. There it is. Perfect. Okay. I will turn on the social stream thing if it even works, which I don't know if it will, but let's find out. Here we go. Let's do a test 1. Okay, that shows up. As far as I can tell, that's the only chat that's working tonight, even though this thing says it's added. Well, whatever. Activate them all. I don't care. But weirdly, I can't see the windows anymore. They're just not visible for reasons. Unless they're behind this. Are they behind this? No. I don't know where the windows are. There's normally windows that pop up here. And they just are choosing not to work. You know what? You know what? What do I care? Let's try this. It's not going to matter, really. I don't know what that is. Here it is. Okay. Just in case, it does look like there was an update for this, so let's go ahead and let's try it. Why not? Why not try it? It doesn't matter. Close that. Okay, let's see. Do this, do that. Go ahead and replace that, and we'll see what we get. Applications, eject, and let's go find the new social stream app. There it is. I don't know if it's going to look any different. It probably won't. Okay. Doesn't appear to. All right. That came up right away. That works instantly for some reason. The Twitch thing works instantly right off the bat. It's the YouTube thing that doesn't work, which is bizarre, but okay. Activate. Oh, well, I guess that update fixed it. There it is. So let's go ahead and hit the button. And let's make sure that updated. So we'll say test 2. Yeah, there it is. All right. Well, apparently that fixed it. So I guess I'm glad I updated then. All right, let's get to it. So what you're seeing on the screen, we're doing something a little bit different this evening. What I'm doing is, my sound is off. Let me turn the sound on in case somebody hits a message, and that way I can hear it. A friend of mine who we've been doing some podcasts with, Dr. Doug Bielmeier, who is a musician, has an album that's going to be coming out in the fall called Electric Rodeo Revival. Let me get a quick sip of water, so bear with me a second here. There we go. And he actually asked me if I'd like to do the cover for it, which I was shocked because I've seen the covers for his stuff and they're really good. So I was not expecting it. But he basically gave me a rough idea of what he was looking for. And it is more or less a sad cybernetic cowboy and a cybernetic horse. So like a cowboy who doesn't really want to be at the rodeo anymore, but is kind of stuck there. So this, I found an image of I think I looked for sad cowboy, and I got an image pretty quick that I was like, oh yeah, that looks like a cowboy who's kind of tired of what he's doing. And I put together a brief kind of sketch of this, and the horse isn't in this image, it's in another one. And I said, Doug, and he liked it. So we're going to get going on this, and we're going to make this into a robot cowboy. Move my chair a little bit further back than I'd like to be. Here we go. So it's going to be this basic image here, but as a robot. So these lines are just kind of guidelines for where the different parts of the face are going to be. So let's go ahead and, what's this? Oh, that's where I reversed it so I could show them what it looked like reversed. Well, I don't need that. It doesn't hurt to, let me just take a look at how many layers do I have on this? I should have a good amount. Oh yeah, 140. How large is this image? Just want to check. 12 by 12. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. This is way bigger than he needs to be, but that's okay. I don't mind working in way bigger. So let's go ahead and do a quick rename. We'll call this sketch. This can actually just stay there. We'll put a new layer, and let's go ahead and get our black pen. Wait, is that actually black? Or is it just pretending to be black? No, it is. That's true black. Actually, I should check. Bear with me a minute. Is this CMYK color? Just curious. No, it's not. Okay, let's do, because if, actually, I don't know if he's going to be printing these. It should be fine. The color is not going to be a major component of this. All right, let's get our pen. Let's see what size we're, oh, is there a reason it's so faint? Because the opacity was way down. Okay, there we go. Let's make this a little bit thicker. What are we at? Let's go to 10. Oh, one of my favorite weights is 10. I do love 10 as a weight for a pen. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's do the basics. I do have a white layer. Let's bring that white layer up. And there we are. Hey, Chameleon, how you doing? Happy Monday. I hope you're doing all right. Okay, let's do this. So we're just going to go ahead and outline this. Now, I'm not going to worry too much about this at the moment. This is basically getting the form of the face in place before I start to roboticize it. So this will not be the final look of this. This is just kind of the starting point. And so I'm not too worried about, some of these forms are going to go away. And that's intentional. So this ear won't look anything like, well, it might look something like this, but it's not going to look exactly like this. Let's put it that way. Doing good. This is a cover for a friend of mine who has a new album that's coming out in the fall. And he wanted an image of a sad robot cowboy and a robot horse. So I'm starting off with just the basic forms of a sad cowboy, and then I will cyberize, or whatever you want to call him. But this is basically a sad cowboy, and I'm going to make him into a, cybernetic organism. But right now I'm just doing the forms, clothing and stuff like that. The clothing, I don't think I'm going to do anything special to. I think the clothing is supposed to look like just normal cowboy clothing. So I don't think I'll have to do much with that. I think it's purely making him into a metal man. So let's bring this up. And there we go. He's just supposed to be the friend of mine? No, my friend who's got the album coming out. His name is Dr. Douglas Bielmeier. No, he is a... Well, I mean... Oops, I didn't even keep creating those. I guess you would describe him as a classical... Well, not classical. He does experimental music. This album, he's told me, is going to be more drum and bass oriented. I think he's actually going to send me some samples of the albums. But this one's going to be more drum... There's a speck of dust on my thing. There we go. Yeah, this one he said was going to be more drum and bass oriented. So this will be a little bit different from his previous album, which was more of a, I don't know if I'd call it classical music. It's really not that, but it's more of classical compositions, but in an experimental way. I'm probably doing a terrible job of explaining that, but if you want an idea of it, he actually does a podcast about experimental music called The Process. So you can actually go and listen to it, and he'll play, you know, other experimental musicians and other artists that he knows that he interviews on his show. You know what, where is that layer? Not that one. It's probably one of the last layers that I did. There we go. This is the basic forms. That's what we're looking for. But yeah, no, he's not a country singer. I think he just had this image to go with the title, Electric Rodeo Revival, of a sad cowboy. And so that's what I went out and found. And that was actually, I didn't expect to find an image so easily, but I did. Yeah, it's interesting. He talks to, I mean, I don't necessarily, some of the musicians he talks to, some of these artists do some really out there music. I'll say that, really out there stuff. But it's still an interesting show to me because you get an idea of how these people come up with these things that they do. And even if I don't necessarily think I would ever pick up an album from some of these people, not that I think they're bad musicians, it's just not my type of music. Because it can be very out there, which I enjoy. I like people who do things that are very different, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's something I would listen to. But when he talks to them and they kind of explain how they came up with things and the concepts of some of these albums, that stuff is always really interesting. And what I find particularly funny sometimes is some of the most out there music. You know, you'll hear this album and it's just so different from anything you're used to. And the assumption would be, oh wow, this is a person who's going through something. And many times those people are, they're very just kind of straightforward, ordinary people who have these sounds in their head they got to get out. I listen to, I can't say I like country. I don't like country music generally, unless it's like Johnny Cash stuff, which I don't even think that's not country now. But I listen to a lot of different things. I don't think there's any one particular type of music that I prefer. I like more ambient stuff, to be honest. I don't necessarily need a lot of lyrics. But then again, having said that, some of my favorite bands are Soundgarden and Stone Temple Pilots and bands like that, and that's all lyrics. So I don't even know if I can say that, you know, is even true. I kind of will listen to anything if it's good, or I'll give anything a shot. Except, like I said, I just can't get into country music. I can't do it. I'm not going to say there's no country songs of any kind that exist that I don't like. I like Willie Nelson, but I don't consider Willie Nelson to be what country is now anymore either. So it's a weird thing, because I mean, music genres are just made up anyway. You like something if you like it. Who cares what the genre is? So that's another aspect of it, is I don't get hung up on types of music because there's so much different stuff out there. I like a lot of the stuff that's generally referred to as synthwave now, although that label seems to be kind of becoming meaningless because artists are just doing whatever they want, which I think is great. So now a lot of people who were previously labeling themselves as synthwave artists, now they're just calling themselves electronic artists again. Sure, what's the difference? Yeah, well, I mean, we all went through that phase. Not necessarily with Disturbed, but for me it was Rage Against the Machine. I was listening to that on full blast, and I'm pretty sure that horrified my parents for a couple of years, but I got really into it. Still like it. Shouldn't say it like I don't like it anymore, but I mean, that was certainly not the type of music that my parents were listening to. So, yeah, we all have that phase where we get into something, and you know, your parents just don't get it because it's such a, like I said, we all do it. It's this thing where we all find these types of music that are just so different from what we're used to. It's a natural kind of phase of life. I don't think there's anybody who's ever been alive that hasn't gone through that in some form. where you find this music and it's, in some cases, not to use a pun, but disturbing to your parents because they just don't know what to make of it. Typical. And, and the funny part, of course, is my parents, I remember, my dad was listening. My dad liked the Beatles. The Beatles to my dad's parents were what Disturbed is for yours, which sounds crazy now because you listen to the Beatles now, you don't think anything of it. But at the time, it was radically different music. So it's all the same thing. You know what I mean? It's all the same. We all have these same patterns. This is one of the funniest things is when you get older, and I don't even mean old, but just older. Once you get past, 18. Actually, no, it's probably a little further than that. But there's a certain point in your life where you realize that what you thought was, everybody was full of crap about. It's like, okay, one day when you're older, you'll understand this. And you sit there and go, yeah, sure. No, I won't. Everybody thinks they're so different from their parents. Oh, sure. Oh, that's what I'm saying. But everybody has that. Everybody. Our parents did it. They did it to whatever songs it was for them. And their parents were horrified. If you have kids, they're going to do it to you one day where you're going to listen to something they're listening to and go, what are you listening to? I mean, I don't have kids, but I guarantee that happens to everybody. It's the same. We all think that we're living such individual lives. Oh, I'm so different from my parents. I'm nothing like them, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then one day you realize you know exactly what they're talking about. Doesn't mean you're carbon copies of them, but we all think we're such radical individuals. And to some extent we are. Everybody is different, but we're not nearly as, I'm not anything like my parents, as we think we are when we're younger. We all think that. We all think, nope, I'm nothing like my parents. And then you get older and you realize that they were right about a lot of things. Not everything, but some things. And it's kind of a funny thing that we all go through it. Because I think about now some of the stuff that my parents, even in terms of music, which of course I loved, but to them it was such, Rage Against the Machine was talking about communism and all this stuff, and this was right after the Cold War ended and all this, so my parents, I'm sure, were horrified hearing this music, and they go, what is, oh no, is he going to become a communist? That type of thing. Like, it's a joke. It sounds funny. But I'm sure they were legitimately concerned that I was going to, become radicalized by this weird music. You know what I mean? Oh, my parents were too. My parents never stopped me, but I'm sure in the back of their minds, they were kind of looking at each other like, what is he listening to? No, my parents were great. My parents never said, don't listen to anything. I was never told I couldn't listen to, or I couldn't watch something. I mean, age-appropriate stuff within reason. I wasn't watching, guinea pig films or anything like that. But my parents were, like I said, behind closed doors, I'm sure my parents at points were looking at each other like, oh boy, this might be a problem at some point. Like, what is going on with him? Like, I'm sure there was a conversation or two along those lines. But no, they never said, oh, you have to stop listening to that or anything like that. No, it was never a situation like that. But it's more of the point that we all kind of go through these phases. And at the time you think, no, I'm nothing like my parents. And like I said, I guarantee your parents listen to music. Probably not every single parent in the world, but many parents in the world had a phase where they listened to something that their parents thought was Looney Tunes. It's a common thing. It's kind of funny how many things we do that are very similar to our parents, and you don't realize it till way later in life. Oh yeah, not so different after all. Because in the end, we're all human beings. We all go through the same phases of life, more or less. So it shouldn't really be surprising. But that's what I mean, is I never really got into one type of music. I mean, I went through phases when I was younger. And there's still music from when I was younger I still like now, like Run DMC, which that was rap at the time. It's much different now. Oh yeah, my wife's a Green Day fan. She likes Green Day quite a bit. So yeah. Yeah, that was probably horrifying, I'm sure, at the time to... I was never as big into Green Day as some people were. I never thought the music was necessarily bad, but it wasn't really for me. But I also, when it came to punk music, which Green Day would I know some people say that's not real punk music. Okay, fine, but it is. Let's not get hung up on what's real and not of any genre. I think that's a pointless thing. People just love to argue about what's real this or real that or fake this, and I don't have time for it. It's punk music of a type. Let's put it like that. It's not from the 70s, 80s. You know, it's not the Sex Pistols or anything, but it's still punk music. And I didn't really get into punk music in a big way. I liked flavors of punk music. But like my wife is big into punk music. Like she listens to a lot of it and knows lots of like small time bands I never heard of. Went to see a lot of bands I've never heard of. Was big into that scene. The closest I really came was, I mean, I like the Sex Pistols are fine. I liked their stuff. Helps that they, you know, only did one album and it's got good songs on it, and then they kind of basically dissolved and vanished because, you know, it's just like a firework that went off too hot. The Ramones, but Ramones, I don't even think you could, I don't know, some people don't define the Ramones as punk music either. They just consider it rock music, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to argue, is that it's not really punk music in the way that many people would define it. And yet it is. Aesthetically, the way that they played, the way that they did their stuff, it's absolutely punk music. But does it sound like punk music? You know. For some reason, after I started phase, I listened to Gin of Alice City and Smash Mouth and Skill, and after that, yeah. Well, that's the thing. You know, I think a lot of us go through phases of listening to different music, and for whatever reason, there could be any number of reasons why you get into it. But yeah, I don't have any particular genre of anything that I listen to. I will probably listen to almost anything. Like I said, I just can't wrap my head around. No, I got you. I can't wrap my head around country music for the most part. I just can't. It literally all does sound the same to me. It really does. And if anybody who's listening likes country music, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with liking it. It's perfectly fine. You can like whatever you like. I'm not trying to insult it. I just can't wrap my head around it. But, you know, that doesn't really mean anything. It just means I can't listen to it. Doesn't mean I'm saying it's bad. Because like I said, there are parts of it like Willie Nelson and kind of this very specific styles I like. But a lot of what would be considered, I think, modern country music just doesn't work for me. Where is that line? Where is that line? It's gotta be, oh no, I know where it is. It's further down. That's right, because that's a facial line. There it is. Okay, let's get it. It's probably this one too. No, it's a different one. So, yeah. And generally, you know, I do try to sample newer stuff and stuff that's outside of my typical listening range, just so I don't feel like I'm, you know, always listening to the same stuff. So I'll go on to like Bandcamp and I'll just kind of randomly click around on whatever the different things are, and just play things for a good 30 seconds or so and see how I react to them. And that generally works out pretty well. I've found some new stuff that way, here and there. This one, that's the one I need. Okay, now let's see how we're going to do some of these parts. Let's see. Oh, well, yeah, that's sort of the downside of music, which for a lot of people, it has these very powerful kind of, like you can immediately have memories of it. So if you hear a song, you remember where you were when you heard it, that type of thing. And a lot of times that's a good thing, because, you know, you can remember something. But if it's a bad memory, yeah, it's very, very hard to shake it. So I understand that. Yeah, that is the downside of music that is kind of burned into your memory is, well, if it's not a good memory, then it's not so great when you remember it, you know? All right, so let's see what we want to do here. How do I want to break this up? How do I want to break the face up? I think I'm going to do it like, if I want to emphasize the sadness thing, kind of bring this maybe down, bring this over like that, and then fraction that up, maybe something like that. So that would be about here. So that would be one part. Let's go ahead and do this, and we'll go ahead and junction that off. Oh, not that sharp though. Let me do a little bit more than that. Let me do more of a wider angle. See if I can bend that. Yeah. So that would be the chin more or less. I kind of like this line here, so we can go ahead and do that. This can connect to here. That would connect up to here. That's here. The ear, I got to figure out what I want to do with, so I'm going to leave that for now. This would have to connect to here, so we can have that part there. Okay, let's see. So let's go ahead and wrap that up to here. Actually, hold on. Let me think about this. So if I was going to do... okay, the eyebrows should probably be their own plates. Like that. What program do you draw with? I've been thinking of upgrading mine. This is Procreate on the iPad. It's... I don't know. I want to say it's maybe $10. It's not that expensive. Let me see. What does Procreate go for? It may not even be that. I think it is. I want to say it's $10. Let me just look really quick. Let's see. Procreate on the iPad. Now they do make 2 programs now. I only use the one. Okay, it is still just called Procreate for iPad. $13. Yeah, that's it. They make something else that's like an animated. They make an animation program, but I don't use that one. Yeah, $13. Procreate on the iPad. In fact, I think it has like a... No, not that. Go back to here. Doesn't it have like an about thing somewhere? That's weird. I thought it had a... Huh. I thought it had an about thing somewhere. I guess it doesn't. Well, there you can see it's... See where it says Procreate Handbook right there? Procreate. That's what it is. And that's what I use pretty much for everything. I do have Photoshop on this iPad, but I'll be honest with you, I can't even remember the last time I used it because there's really not much that it does that outside of maybe shapes, and even that I don't really ever need it, so I don't really use it. I do not generally use Photoshop on the iPad. Which is weird because I live in Photoshop on the computer, but on the iPad it just doesn't, I don't know, there's something about it where it just doesn't seem as effective. I used to have it in middle school. I'll say iPad wasn't working anymore. I might get it again. I didn't recognize it. I guess it upgraded. Oh yeah, they've done some significant upgrades on it. I don't remember when the last one was, but yeah, they've definitely have been upgrading it. Yeah, I really like it. I really like it. I think it's... I'm just messing around with this. I'm trying to see what I want to do here. Because to some degree, I have to kind of figure out where these parts are going to be. And they have to somewhat follow... I mean, I guess they don't, but I want them to kind of follow the facial structure here. I don't like that. I don't like the way that looks. Kind of that like that. That's good. And then, okay, that's better. Let's see here. I'm using IBS Paint for the last few years. Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many tools too. There's really no tool that I would look at and say, well, this is the one you got to use. Not on the iPad. There's so many different things. There's a program called Feather that I have to try out. I don't like how that looks now. So let's get rid of that because I want this to look. Why did it? What is that? Why is? Oh, that's the blue pen. Okay, just checking. I didn't know what that was for a minute. So I think what I need to do is have this come up like that. That makes more sense. Yeah, so this Feather one is like a 3D drawing thing. Sounds really interesting. I have to look at that one too. Not that I do a lot of 3D drawing, but it seems like a neat tool, so I want to kind of give it a try anyway. But yeah, on the iPad, there's so many options now that you can really just use whatever you want. You know what? I don't know why I'm struggling here. This just doesn't look the way I want it to, and I can't figure out why. Why doesn't it look the way I want it to? Let me turn this layer off for a minute. Let's start over again. Let me on the background here, because this just doesn't look the way I want it to. Let me see if I can find the same image. Of course, I don't have it on the iPad. I was looking at. Oh, there it is, right there. Okay. Yeah, let me see that. That's a sad-looking guy. It really is. Okay, so yeah, I think what I need to do is, as opposed to what I've got here, I think, that's what it is. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to draw these lines and not so much worry about what they look like. I like IBS because it's got a lot of anime and manga type art, and it's got progress down there. Oh, that's nice. That's good. The importing reference thing is great. That does sound like it's very useful. Okay, let's see. Yeah, like I said, there's no. I mean, that's true on the desktop now too. It used to be that it was Photoshop or nothing, but that's not really true anymore either. I mean, now there's so many tools. I can't remember that. Was it Affinity Photo? I think a lot of people prefer to Photoshop now. I don't like how unsharp that line is. I want that to be more of a. Let me just look at this guy's face. Okay, that's why this line's too short. So this line needs to come up to like here or so. But that seems too sharp now. Maybe it's more like this. Is that what I'm trying to do? You know what? Wait a minute. That's why I'm making a mistake here. I shouldn't be looking at the front. I should be looking at facial muscles. Hold on. Let's see. Let me look at how the muscle outlay of a face is. There we go. Okay. Let me see if I can find one that's somewhat turned and get an idea of it. All right, Chameleon. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good night. Hope you sleep well. Okay. So let's see. There's a really interesting picture. Oh boy, that's an interesting. Huh. Wow. Boy, some of these facial muscle images are kind of terrifying, to be honest. Because man, some of these are really, really lifelike. Okay, there. That's it. That's basically what I'm looking for. So this has it basically coming up to right above the lip line. So from, say, here to about there, more or less. And then that arcs back towards the middle of the ear. So like this. Again, more or less. Okay, and then there's the big eye port. See, this is what I need. This is giving me a better idea of the rough kind of structure of the eyes and the face. So this would come up in there like that. Okay, yes, this makes more sense to me now. Okay, so we bring that up into there. I mean, the eyebrows are going to be their own plates, so. Yeah. Okay, and then, oh, that's an interesting muscle there. So then this. Interesting. So then this kind of follows up to there. Okay. Yeah. And then the chin doesn't really have really well-defined muscles per se, not the way everything else does. Huh. Trying to see if they've got more of like the bone structure too. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, it's basic. The bone structure is a little too simplified. That's what I thought. Yeah. I mean, it's basically, well, interesting. If I follow the skull model, I actually have a skull over here. I have a skull I can actually pick up and look at. Let's see how that would look. So he would be facing like this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, following the skull doesn't really work. Not really. I mean, it's sort of, yeah, it doesn't really work. Although, to give me an idea for something else, I put that back. Hold on. Put that down. There we go. Okay, let's see here. Did give me the idea from looking at that one, too. Instead of worrying about making the chin all one thing, make it a kind of a metal plate like this. All right, not like that, though. Like that. Although that looks a little off to me. Let me try that. And then, because this can actually sort of simulate facial hair, like a soul patch. Wait, I'm just not quite getting my lines where I want them. Almost. I mean, I'm close. Not awful. Just having to redo them here and there. Okay, so something like that. Yeah. I think I will actually give him metal hair or some kind of hair like that. Because Doug had actually referenced an image I did a while ago of a cybernetic, what's the word for it? Cybernetic, like fisherman. There we go. All right, let me take a look at that image really quick because I just want to see how I did the hair on that one, because I did do hair on it. I think I just did it as strands of cable. Yeah, that's what I thought. I just did strands. Yeah, that's such a simple image too. I wonder if I'm overthinking this. I could be. It's possible. I mean, I may not need to do much more than I've done here. Yeah, you know what I just realized? I realized something. Okay. This upper line is fine. I don't like this bottom line. This line's got to go. I'm just not doing that. Instead, I'm going to have this line come out and meet that one. So this will come down. That didn't curve it as much as I'd like it to. And then this will come up. Like that. Yeah, that I like better. That, it kind of re-emphasizes the sadness of it. I don't know if that line would be that sharp. That line would probably be more like this. Yeah. I don't think I have to go insane here. And then, yeah, I basically just did cable hair, which is what I figured I did. So these strands would just be like cables coming out. Something like this. Yeah. Okay, I can just leave that for now. That's a placeholder, but that'll work. Now, as far as the eyebrows, those I think should be plates. But what I may do is this, actually make these eye sockets their own thing. There's something very Lone Ranger about that I kind of like. I don't know whether Doug will like it, but you know, I'll run it by him and see what he thinks. And then basically just have these feed off of here as plate work. But that still have the curve to them, so they look correct. Hold on, I'll look at something. Where's that image of that sad cowboy again? Let's see. Here it is, sad cowboy. Yeah, that is how it looks. Okay. Well. Okay. Yeah, I see what I did wrong. This other eyebrow was bothering me. It's because I went too far over the kind of eyebrow arc. So we just do this. But the eyebrows should kind of have a a general arc. See what I mean? They should kind of be along the same line. Having it too far up makes it look like it's not the same, like, person is almost the way to say it. Yeah, like that, which looks really weird, but that is exactly how eyebrows actually look. Yeah, it's strange because it doesn't quite look right looking at it, but that is accurate. That is what it looks like. And then something like, I kind of like the idea of this connecting down, that, and then that would come down here. Or do I not need that? Maybe I don't need that. Maybe the rest I just do as in terms of like reflection. Yeah, that might be a better idea. And then as far as down here goes, I almost want to just kind of like loop it like this. Yeah, that's too sharp. That's actually better. Let me try this. Yeah, something like that. That comes up. And then I can basically do almost like a thing coming here. Just to give some kind of body plating. There we go. Something simple. The ear, yeah, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do with the ears. Because they're not gonna look like that. I can tell you that right now. They will not look like that. Where is that hair at? Oh, that's that. Yeah. Yeah, I do not like that. That's gone. Definitely sticking more to this. Where is that little hair thing? Oh, there it is. Okay, let's do this. Let's get rid of that. And then let's go to a new layer. And for the actual hair, so I want to kind of just keep it somewhat simple. Still follow the lines. Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, I already see what my problem is. My problem is I'm going to have to do these individually like this and space them because there's no way it's going to work. Can I do it in a sharp way? Let me think. How did I do it on my other one? Jeez, I don't even remember. I just rounded them at the end. I guess I just didn't worry about this. I didn't overthink it. I think that's my problem, is I'm overthinking things. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just overthinking this. And part of this is because I'm doing it for Doug, and I want, it's for his album, and I don't want to do something that, he doesn't like the look of. But yeah, if I do that, bring that around, and I obscured my screen now. Make sure this is actually still working. Oh yeah, it's still working. Okay, good. Let me just turn off the sketches for a minute. I want to see what it looks like without that involved. Yeah, I kind of, the eye socket shapes are working for me because that makes it look sad. He looks like a sad cowboy, so as long as he looks like that, then at least I know, whoops, whoa, why did I do that? Just go back to the top layer, man. Ooh. Do not overthink things, Procreate. Okay. Or it might have been the iPad. I can't ever tell one. I can't ever tell what causes certain things to do certain things. I immediately jumped to assuming it was Procreate, but it could very well have been the iPad. Yeah, so we'll just have the hair coming down like this. Kind of like the eyes like that too, although I may try to... I don't know. I don't think having no irises works. Where are the eyes here? Although I could try it. Like having the eyes like that. Is that better? Interesting question. I don't know. I'm going to proceed without them for now. I'll probably leave that decision to Doug and see what he thinks. I sort of think having the pupils, the irises, whatever the actual... I think it's the pupils. I think having the pupils more emphasizes the sadness more. But that might where did this come from? This may strike him as more of a robot. And then these other lines, they're going to be like shine lines. So those lines will be there. They're just going to be for kind of shininess emphasis. If that makes sense. It should once, I actually get to that part. And what I'll probably do is I'm not going to go too far into this because I want to basically, I got to do the horse too, which I'm not going to do on this stream. Maybe on the next one I'll do it. Or I may do it separately. I don't want to just do it on the stream because I want Doug to get this as soon as, I don't want him to have to wait on it. But I also have to do the horse, but I want to run this stuff by him and not just keep going and assume that it's what he wants. Because he might say, I don't like the hair, get rid of the hair. Which is fine. I told him this right up front. I'm like, I don't have any ego about this stuff. It's his album. And I am very, very familiar. I've talked about this on these streams before. You can't have any type of, can't be precious about your artwork when you're doing it for somebody else. Because ultimately, most of the time, somebody who's commissioning you has an idea of something in their mind. And they don't expect you to do it exactly the way they see it, because that's kind of impossible. They do want you to bring something of yourself to it, but at the same time, you want to stay relatively within whatever they want. That's the thing. Which is a tricky thing, because it is a strange thing to have your art not serving your taste. So I understand that there are people who really struggle with that aspect of it. And I'm not going to pretend that when I was younger I didn't have that problem, where people would say, well, if I want it to look like this, and my first thought is, that looks stupid. Why would I do that? Now I just sit there and go, hey, it doesn't matter. You bring the quality of yourself in the actual work you're doing, not what the work looks like. There are plenty of world-class artists who have done work that I'm sure they looked at for whatever it was afterwards and went, wow, that's what you hired me to do, huh? Okay. Which is not the case with this one. I actually really like the idea of the sad cowboy, the sad robot cowboy. It's actually kind of a neat concept, because he showed me some kind of AI images he generated as just working ideas, and I immediately got what he was going for. I'm like, oh yeah, I like that. That's funny. So I'm not trying to make it sound like that's the case here, because it is not. That would be an inaccurate statement. I actually very much like the concept of what he was showing me. That's one of the reasons I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Sure. That sounds fun. It's just funny, I've been doing these cyberized things lately. Not intentionally. Wasn't the point. Just ended up working out that way. Because I was working on the cyber head before this anyway. And fairly recently I did that cyber western cover for Lando's book. Which reminds me, I have to tell him he hasn't sent me his newest stuff. I think he's it's gone to the back burner for him for a little bit, but I have to prod him back into doing it. It's important he does it. It is important that he does it. Alright, so just have this stuff come out here. And that come down like that. This individual, the reference image, had a goatee, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. I don't know yet. I'll see what I feel like. I may play with it and see how it looks, but I'm not. I didn't sketch it initially, which makes me think I thought it was maybe not necessary. But we'll see. Alright, so now we'll do the in-between. Hairs like that, that. See, this is easier because I just have to do this, that. Well, not like that. I'll just have to come in here and clean up those lines, that's all. Like that. I don't want to start getting into that. Let's do it like this instead. Jeez. Just making things harder on myself now. got to look like it's actually in between these things, to some extent anyway. Yeah, there we go. All to be even length. So we got to do some length subdividing here. Hold on a minute. Okay. Let's do a little bit there. There, there. Some of these can be longer like that. Okay, and then we'll come back to here. And we'll bring that like that. Like that. 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 And we'll do that. And we will do that. Bring that one way out. That one out there. This one out here, bring this one out here, let's bend that one down, nope, gotta go more, have to come all the way in, there we go, bring this one in, bring that one in, bring that one down, that one down, this one's gonna be a twofer, like that, no, not like that though, and like that either. Whoa, whoa, don't go that far, guys. Let's bring it like this, and I can do it. Yeah, that's better. Out. Okay, so now let's do a little bit of clear. I have to do one more layer, just for these few that go in between things. That. I think there was another one over here. Yes, that one comes out. There we go. And then I need to do just that to fill that in. All right, let's clean this up. Turn that off. Turn that way down. Let's just clean these up, and then I'm probably... Oh, yeah. This will where I'll bring the stream to a close. This is a good spot. So we'll just erase. Actually, I could use... Yeah, no, don't use that. Clean that. Clean that. Clean that inside. Yeah, I need a smaller eraser for these. Just to clean those edges up. There we are. Clean that. Clean that. That. See where we are. I think we'll be in okay shape. As far as the image. Oh, I missed one. Oh, I turned it off. I turned it off. That's right. I turned that layer off. Didn't miss it. Just turn it off. There we are. Oh, nope. That's got to be there. That's got to stay. There. Just this. That stays there. Clean that. Clean that. And that. That there. Okay. This should... I think this is going to look how I want it. It's looking all right so far. Got a little bit of a, a little struggle getting the head forms where I wanted them at first, but that's not a surprise because I'm trying to keep this one, I think Doug wants a little bit, I don't want to say on the simpler side, but I don't think with a lot of complicated forms. And like I said, at this point, I don't want to go too far into it on the off chance he says, I liked it when it was the sketch, but I'm not really liking it now. Let's change this, or this. He may want facial hair, more of it. He may want less or none at all, because I think the image he sent me, that image did not have any hair on the robot's head, but I don't know that was a decision. That may have just been what he generated, and that's what it looked like. So that's what I mean. You have to try not to read too much into certain things, because I think it was more, oops, wrong way. There we go. It was more of a, well, here's the general idea, not I want it to look like this. I don't think. It didn't feel that way based on what he was saying and what he was showing me. So I don't think it is that, but, he may see this and decide he doesn't want facial hair or any hair at all. Or that he does. So, okay, so let's do the one more layer here, which is this one. Let's clean these edges up. For this, I can use the bigger one for just here. Run that along there. There we are. go too far into the line. So we still need to see. We still need those inside lines. That looks good. Okay. All right. That's a start. That's a start. Yep. Oh. I was going to clean those lines up down there. Let's clean these lines up real quick because I know those aren't going to be there. Let's do that. Clean that up. Clean that up. And let's clean that up. And clean that up. And I think for now, what is that on? Oh, that's on the social stream window. Got it. I didn't know what that box was I was seeing on my screen. Yeah, I think this is a good place to stop for now. So we're going to go ahead and we'll stop here. But I will be continuing to work on this image, but oops, put that redo. Thank you. But I think we're in good shape here. Yeah, I'm just going back and forth on the eyes. But the fortunate part is I don't have to make that decision right this second. Oh, that's where I inverted it. That is not something, in fact, I'm just going to get rid of that because I'm not going to need this again. Yeah. Boy, I don't know. The eyes I'm going back and forth on, which is a perfectly good reason to take a break from looking at this image because I am going back and forth on it. So, it's like I said, it's very, very useful, especially if you're kind of struggling with what you want to do or not, to take a break. Stop looking at it for a little while and figure out what you want to do. So that is exactly what I'm going to do right now. So thank you for coming by and hanging out on the stream. And as I always say, number one, if you're watching this later, that's fine. I understand people can't catch it live. In fact, a friend of the show was actually saying that he keeps trying to catch it live and keeps missing it. And I'm like, that's fine. You can watch it after the fact. It really doesn't make a difference. I don't expect people to show up because time zones. So whenever or however you're watching this, do something to support a creator that you enjoy. Not me. I'm fine. But if there are creators out there, there's a lot of creators, and especially there's sort of there's like a catch-22 that's currently going on. There's so many avenues for people to create, so many different platforms that people are using. And on the one hand, that's great because there aren't the barriers to creating things that there used to be. The other side of it, though, is there's so much of it that a lot of creators, I think, can feel like they're getting lost, that they're not getting seen, that, there's so much around them, they're getting lost in the static. So even if all you do is send somebody a message saying that you appreciate their work, that can do wonders for somebody who feels like they're just getting passed by or getting lost in a flood. If you repost their work or reshare their work or leave them a nice comment or a review or whatever, that's great too. And if you can, and you have the ability to give them some money, sure. But it doesn't all have to be monetary. People get that. I think we fall into that automatic thing where we think that the only way we can appreciate somebody's work is to pay something to them. And that's great if you can, but not everybody has that ability. And it doesn't always, and not everybody who's a creator is necessarily looking at money as meaning that somebody appreciates their work. It can be just as much for you to just say, hey, I really like your work, or to, again, reshare it somewhere, as it is to provide money. Get more eyes on it so that somebody else who maybe is in a better position, because nobody should feel like they should be guilted into giving somebody money. You shouldn't have to feel that way. So if you can't, then promote their stuff or just give them a nice comment. Like I said, it can be worth just as much as money to people who might feel like maybe their work just isn't being seen. And that might just do as much as if you could throw them $5 or whatever. Do both if you can, but if you can't, then do what you can. Like I said, don't feel bad if you can't put money, because positive comments and getting more eyes on it is just as valuable. It really is. On that note, I'm going to shut up now and hopefully have a good rest of your day or evening, whatever it is and whenever it is that you're watching this. And like I said, go support a creator, because I guarantee almost every creator you like will appreciate it. On that note, everybody, thanks for being here. And until next time, take care.